Aklas pasimatymas.
Hello everyone, here is radio program Blind Date, me, Irma Jokstyte, and as always I invite you to talk about the people, events, initiatives that help to know each other better and to explore more about human abilities and strengths. Today my guest is PARVIS project coordinator from EBU, which is European Blind Union, Mariem SENE. Hello, Mariem.
Hello, Irma.
Mariem, we said that it's PARVIS project. Maybe it sounds a bit mysterious to our listeners. What does this project talk about and when it started?
The aim of the PARVIS project, it's an acronym of promoting awareness raising of visually impaired people in the society. It's a European project of which the aim is to raise awareness of blind and partially sighted people's rights while building the capacities of visually impairment organizations to advocate for them with decision makers. It's a 2-year project that started in January 2029 and it will end in December this year, 2022. And it's a very interesting project because it involves 9 countries altogether, which are Lithuania, Germany, France, Slovakia, Montenegro, Spain, Portugal, Sweden, and the Netherlands. So it's a very sort of European-wide project. And we have altogether 10 activities in the PARVIS project. They are centered around the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And these activities range from awareness-raising videos, Twitter campaigns, to events, e-workshops, and info sessions. We are also producing currently audio description guidelines, easy-to-use guidelines, which will be ready in September. So really the aim of PARVIS is to reach decision makers to improve the situation, so the rights-based situation of blind and partially sighted people, but also we want to reach the media as well as the general public, including visually impaired citizens themselves, so that they are aware of their rights and legal tools and mechanisms that they can turn to if their rights have been violated.
Mariem, is it your first time when you were so close engaged to research of persons with disabilities rights?
Yes, it is the first time, and I have come to learn that there is so much to improve in terms of rights, because it's true that I've worked before in children's rights and women's rights, but not disability rights. And these are rights that for me as a person without any visual impairment, there are things that I can take for granted, but so I'm assuming that the general public also, if they don't know these rights, will take for granted as well. Well, for example, audio description is a good example, and really it is such an important thing for inclusion. So for me, this project also is therefore important because like I said, we want to reach out to decision makers to improve the situation. That means decision makers in television and media, but also like decision makers in general to improve legislations. But also we want to just promote these rights to the general public, so also the society becomes more aware of how we can all improve the situation to make society more inclusive and accessible to everyone.
And did you know anyone with visual impairment before started working in EBU, or it was your first interaction?
Yes, it was my first interaction. I did not know anyone before with a visual impairment.
So how after, because the first year has passed after PARVIS project has started, so what is the main or the most important thing which you learned working together with these people and representing their rights?
I've just learned to work in a more accessible way. Also, in my everyday working, using certain fonts. When I produce documents, I try to make them more accessible, or I am making them more accessible with alternative text. Just making sure that everything I produce, all the communication, the way I communicate, that it is accessible, and that is the biggest thing I've learned.
That's very nice thing, to work so that the work would be more inclusive and accessible for your colleagues. That's the great thing you have learned, and I'm happy for that. Now let's listen shortly for the music and we'll continue our talk.
Aklas pasimatymas.
Here is radio program Blind Date, and we continue our talk with Mariem SENE, PARVIS project coordinator. PARVIS project, which addresses society, decision makers and journalists to pay attention to persons with disabilities rights, and especially visually impaired people rights. Mariem, you have mentioned already that this includes not only the society raising awareness, but also it teaches something, the organizations that take part in this project, something about their own rights and how to advocate them. What are the rights that you talk about mostly in this project?
So we have 10 different rights. We focus on the right to accessible healthcare, right to accessible information, right to personal mobility, right to equal access to the labor market, right to culture and sports, right to maximum independence, which is based on the UNCRPD article on rehabilitation and habilitation. We discuss the rights of children with visual impairment, right to inclusive education, and the right to political participation.
And is the situation very different in Europe, at least in the countries that take part in the project and express their opinion, which is liking the most, or more or less similar?
I would say it's pretty similar. Of course, legislations vary in different countries, but still the sort of issues remain the same when it comes to, for example, access to information. I think receiving information in an accessible format such as braille and large print still remains problematic in all European countries involved in the project. That was just an example. So yeah, some situations are better in some countries than others, but I think the core issues do remain the same in all of them.
We always think that Germany, France, Netherlands might be the leaders of providing this accessible, equal access to information, but of course these countries maybe have started earlier doing this research and working this important work. Mariem, also we are preparing, all the PARVIS countries, and I'm very happy that Lithuania included, we are preparing for May 9th. Which day it will be and why it will be important day for all of us?
Yes, so we are preparing for our decentralized event on May 9th, which is Europe Day. And why Europe Day is important? It's a day where, in general, NGOs mobilize themselves to bring awareness to their cause, because Europe Day is all about the inclusion, promoting for the inclusion of Europe, common values, just to bring us all together, really. So that's why Europe Day coincides as a important day to advance causes for a more inclusive Europe. So PARVIS countries, all 9 of them, will organize a decentralized event, which will be in most countries in the format of a panel discussion, where we will invite decision makers to discuss how political participation of visually impaired people can be improved. Now, this concerns making both voting more accessible, but also to talk about how to increase representation of visually impaired people in politics and make it more accessible for them. We will also organize a joint media action simultaneously during the event. Now, like I said, this is a general topic, but then PARVIS countries also might have other agendas they will promote during that day as well.
Mariem, where people can find more information about PARVIS activities and PARVIS products that were created in this project?
Yes, so they can be found on EBU's website, euroblind.org, and then you go to the section Current Activities, and you then go to the section PARVIS, and then you click on awareness raising on blind and partially sighted persons' rights. So that will go to the PARVIS website. Then you can also find us on Twitter. Our Twitter name is EBU. So in there we post our PARVIS videos, and I think our most important awareness raising channel or medium right now is YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and to the PARVIS channel, we post videos in there in many languages, 10 languages that are the PARVIS languages, but we also have additional languages for our first 4 videos, which were right to accessible healthcare, right to accessible information, right to personal mobility, and equal right to work. So those videos are also available in Serbian, Estonian, Slovenian, Finnish, and Italian, as well as Romanian. So I'm happy that we have videos in many different languages.
So it's really worth to join and to subscribe this channel, because then you will get the news as early as possible and also in Lithuanian language. Let's listen for some music and then we will continue our talk.
Aklas pasimatymas.
Here is radio program Blind Date and me, Irma Jokstyte, talking today about rights of persons with disabilities with PARVIS project coordinator Mariem SENE. We talked a lot about PARVIS activities that are really very, very different. It includes podcasts, videos, social campaigns, decentralized event, and it even has workshops to teach organizations that take part in the PARVIS project. So huge variety of different activities. Mariem, we talked a bit about audio description and importance of equal access to information all in all. What do you think it means for us all in 21st century, when the third decade of it is going on and we still do not have the equal rights to get the information, which is very important? What can each of us regular people to do to change this situation?
I think we should just in our everyday life make information more accessible. I think, for example, during the pandemic, a lot of people started opening their own businesses online. So even as regular people, when they, for example, open their own web store, they can start thinking already when creating the website, how can it be made more accessible to the people that they're trying to reach. Another example would be if anyone organizes an event, especially a bigger one, how can it be made accessible to people with visual impairment? Because I think that, as I mentioned before, these kind of things are often taken for granted. And I don't think it comes from a bad place necessarily. It comes just from the lack of awareness. And so if we try to just improve these things in our everyday lives, it would really make the difference in the life of a person that is visually impaired. So I really hope that access to information could be improved in just overall web navigation. It could be improved in access to services. It could be improved in political participation and making that more accessible. I really hope it could be improved in cultural activities, meaning theater, cinemas, museums, and arts. I think also lack of assistance is an issue when it comes to overall access to cultural events. If you don't really know as a visually impaired person where you should go to experience it. Also lack of accessibility adjustment in buildings when it comes to tactile walking services and open spaces. I think also that is an issue. Maybe I'm not the best person to talk about it because I'm not visually impaired, but as a person that is not visually impaired, those are the things that I would like to be improved, because they don't always even take much effort. It just is a small effort that makes a big difference to someone.
And what about attitude when we assess abilities of visually impaired people? Let's say trying to employ them or when meeting them. What would you say to those that hesitate?
I would say that with the proper assistive tools, there is no reason why a visually impaired person could not be hired for the job if they're competent in that field as everyone else is. So I don't think that visual impairment is in any way a hindrance, because all it needs is assistance.
Well, I'm very happy to hear this right attitude and that you are creating so many tools which allows us to explore more about visually impaired people abilities. Thank you so much, Mariem, for your work, and we will be looking forward to hearing more about the decentralized event and having this May 9th Europe Day, let's hope, in a more peaceful world. I remind you all that you can always find our radio programs on YouTube channel Aklas Pasimatymas. We wish you the very pleasant time, and let's meet other time. Here was Irma Jokstyte and PARVIS project coordinator Mariem SENE.
Laidą rengė Irma Jokstytė ir Andžejus Ravanas. Laidą remia Spaudos, radijo ir televizijos rėmimo fondas, Lietuvos aklųjų ir silpnaregių sąjunga ir Neįgaliųjų reikalų departamentas prie Socialinės apsaugos ir darbo ministerijos.